We're joined now by Mike Davis. Mike is president of the Article 3 Project, where he is my colleague, and I guess in some ways you might say my boss, because I am senior counsel at the Article 3 Project. Mike Davis, you're a good friend. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
You bet, anytime. So you are all over the media world with your daily commentary on the Trump trials. I do that as well on my other show, America on Trial with Josh Hammer. But Mike, I know that you're following the New York City criminal case against Trump in extraordinary detail. This Soros-funded Alvin Bragg prosecutor. We've had Stormy Daniels on the witness stand this week. There was cross-examination today. What is your take on the current state of play when it comes to Donald Trump's criminal prosecution in New York City?
This criminal prosecution is a legal and political disaster for Joe Biden and the Democrats. I still think there's a very good chance this jury finds Trump guilty and this Democrat judge convicts, just because this process is so unfair and so rigged. You have this Soros-funded Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg, who campaigned on getting Trump. You have Matthew Colangelo, a senior Biden Justice Department political appointee, the number 3, and a former Democrat National Committee political consultant and a former Obama White House aide and Obama Justice Department official, being deployed to Bragg's office to bring these bogus charges against Trump, where you have at best, bookkeeping misdemeanors from 2017 that have somehow turned into these felony charges against Trump 7 years later, right in the middle of the presidential campaign. These aren't even bookkeeping misdemeanors. This is all bogus, but at best, that's what these are. And then you have their star witnesses. You have Michael Cohen, who is a convicted perjurer and disbarred attorney who's making money on TikTok trashing Trump. And then you have Stormy Daniels, this porn star who was ordered to pay Trump nearly $300,000 in a defamation case, and who wrote a letter back in 2018 denying that any incident happened. She's changed her story several times. She's trashing Trump, promoting her porn sites, and amazingly, this Democrat judge, Juan Merchan, who donated to Biden, donated to another anti-Trump cause, and more problematically, whose adult daughter, Laura Merchan, is raising millions of dollars off of this trial, requiring Judge Merchan's recusal when Trump raises this evidence of unquestionable conflict of interest under New York statute. Judge Juan Merchan responded by expanding this illegal, unconstitutional gag order. President Trump can't talk about Cohen. He can't talk about Daniels. He can't talk about Colangelo. He can't talk about Lauren Merchan. He can't even talk about the facts that this jury pool in Manhattan voted 87% for Joe Biden. If Trump mentions any of those facts, this Judge Merchan has threatened to throw Trump in prison. This is outrageous. It's un-American. It's unacceptable. And frankly, the American people are waking up to this. And like I said, this is backfiring spectacularly on Joe Biden and these Biden Democrats.
So I agree with every single word you just said. I mean, I really could not have laid it out any better than that. I mean, literally everything down to Lauren Merchan, the judge's daughter, who's fundraising tens of millions of dollars off of her daddy being the guy who might lock up the first president ever. Everything from that to Matthew Colangelo, who's Alvin Bragg's assistant, who left the Biden DOJ, took a downgrade, it seems, from the Biden DOJ to the New York County, New York DA's office, all to put on this ridiculous sham Stalinist prosecution show trial there. This thing really does stink to high heaven. And, you know, Mike, you said that you still wouldn't be surprised if the jury does render a guilty verdict. I would not be surprised either. This obviously is Manhattan. This is an 86 to 87% roughly Joe Biden voting county. I want to float one theory to you from one lawyer to another, and I want your thoughts on this, which is, if you look at the jury pool, two of the 12 jurors are also lawyers. One, I believe, is a corporate lawyer. One's a civil litigator. Now, again, it's Manhattan. I mean, if that's your only variable, if that's your only heuristic, then you probably assume, unless you have evidence to the contrary, that they're probably liberals. But, Mike, what do you make of the possibility, which I've also floated out there, that simply by dint of the fact that these are lawyers, they might start asking some, I don't know, extraordinarily basic questions, such as the glaring statute of limitations problems that Alvin Bragg is facing here, about the fact that it's dubious whether a local prosecutor, a county DA, can even bring federal charges, because that's what the campaign finance violations are. So what do you make of the fact that there are multiple lawyers on the jury? Does that affect your thinking at all?
Not the lawyers in Manhattan, because you also have a disbarred attorney, Michael Cohen, who is lying and trashing Trump. You have a Manhattan judge, Juan Merchan, a corrupt Manhattan judge whose adult daughter, Lauren Merchan, fundraising off of this requires his recusal. That's not just Mike Davis saying that. A former Clinton federal judge in the Southern District of New York said this on Caitlin Collins' show on CNN on April 5th, that the fact that New York statute goes out 6 degrees of separation for recusal. The daughter's in the first degree of separation. The fact that Lauren Merchan is raising money off of her father's unprecedented trial requires his recusal. And the fact that he hasn't done it shows that these lawyers in New York City are not upstanding lawyers, right? You have Matthew Colangelo going there. You have from the Biden Justice Department, you have Alvin Bragg, who is a Soros-funded puppet and campaigned on getting Trump. Those are all lawyers, right? Or at least in Cohen's case, he used to be a lawyer, and they're still doing this. I have no confidence in our legal system, and I have particularly no confidence in our legal system in these Democrat hellholes like New York. One example, let me just give you this example, Josh. We have the Manhattan jury pool that's 87% for Biden, which is bad enough. But then this judge, Juan Merchan, rigged the jury selection process with Bragg and with Colangelo, where they are weeding out people, weeding out potential jurors. They weeded out potential jurors who follow Trump on social media, but they did not weed out potential jurors who followed Biden on social media. How do you explain that?
No, fair enough. I mean, point very well taken here. And it really is just a truly absurd situation that we are having to endure here as American patriots, watching a former president of the United States, once again a leading candidate to retake that highest office in the land, being subjected to the tawdry and salacious testimony of this porn star and Michael Cohen. I mean, it doesn't feel like America, Mike. And I guess one question that I have for you, you know, you and I are both pretty right-wing guys, but do you think that the median person who is not one of us, so to speak, who maybe someone who's a moderate independent, even someone who is center left, not far left. I mean, do these people look at what is currently happening in this courtroom? The fact that Donald Trump is being deprived of his right to be on the campaign trail for 4 of the 5 days of the working week, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. His only day off is Wednesday. I mean, do they look at all of this that we have already discussed in our limited time here? And do they think that this is all kosher, or are they just kind of intrinsically just having some doubts as to this whole process?
Well, the problem is today's Democrats aren't liberals who love America and just disagree with conservatives on the best way to get there. These are leftist. These are Marxist. They hate America. They hate free speech. They believe in censorship. They hate equality. They believe in equity. They hate due process. They believe in a politicized and weaponized justice system. They believe in the Me Too presumption of guilt, right? These are the same leftists who are terrorizing Jewish Americans all over the country, particularly on college campuses. They're doing this right now at Columbia University, where they are threatening and actually committing violence against Jewish students. Where is Alvin Bragg, right? Alvin Bragg has President Trump tied up in a courtroom while he's letting these Hamas supporters terrorize Jewish Americans all over New York City, and especially on Columbia's campus. I mean, this is outrageous what the left has done to our justice system. It's inexcusable. It's actually a criminal conspiracy. It's a conspiracy against rights under federal civil rights law, 18 U.S.C. Section 241. This is obviously a criminal conspiracy by these government actors to deprive President Trump of his constitutional rights to speak and to travel and to campaign. I mean, this is a very serious federal crime. It's up to 10 years in prison. And when President Trump is back in office, his acting attorney general on January 20th, 2025, on day one, needs to open a criminal probe on this conspiracy. And it's not just in New York. It's with Joe Biden and his White House. It's with Jonathan Sue, who orchestrated the Mar-a-Lago raid. It's with Jay Bratz, who orchestrated the Mar-a-Lago raid. It's with Jack Smith, who's running these bogus prosecutions to interfere in the election. It's Fani Willis. It's Alvin Bragg. It's Matthew Colangelo. It's Big Tish James, the New York Attorney General. It's the Arizona Attorney General. It's all these private actors who are colluding with these government officials to violate Trump's civil rights. And there must be the most severe legal, political, and financial consequences to this, because these are Republican tactics by these leftists, these Democrats, and the only thing they respect is power. And so that's what we need to show them when President Trump is back in office, so this never happens again.
Yeah, no, really well said. I'm also very happy you mentioned 18 U.S. Code Section 241, which is a criminal statute dealing with this conspiracy to deprive others of constitutional rights, because I've actually, in a separate context, I've actually also floated that exact same statute as one possible remedy to deal with all the pro-Hamas anarchy that is currently tearing America's university campuses apart. It also strikes me as a very similar conspiracy to deprive students and faculty, in this case often Jewish students and faculty, of their own constitutional rights. Mike Davis, once again, is the president of the Article 3 Project, where he is my colleague and perhaps in some ways my boss as well. Mike, let's get you out of here on this. I want to be respectful of your time, but there was also huge news this week in both Florida and Georgia. Judge Aileen Cannon delaying the trial start date in the classified documents case, Jack Smith's lesser discussed case, I guess you might say, the one involving the documents in Mar-a-Lago. And then Fani Willis, that whole thing is just totally off the rails at this point. So it does seem like, Mike, that the New York case really is the only one that's actually going to reach a jury verdict prior to November. So given the fact that the Democrats are now forced to place all of their eggs in this Alvin Bragg, Juan Merchan basket, how do you think that's going to affect how they operate in the remaining weeks of this trial and perhaps even after the trial?
You're going to see the left getting so desperate. Look, they are relying on a disbarred attorney and convicted perjurer in Michael Cohen and a porn star who's changed her story several times in Stormy Daniels, along with a Soros-funded DA, Alvin Bragg, and a Biden political operative, Matthew Colangelo, and a clearly corrupt judge, Juan Merchan, whose daughter's fundraising off this trial. This is like the Star Wars bar. And if this is what the Democrats are going to present to the American people as acceptable, the American people are going to reject this, as I've been predicting for the last 22 months since that Mar-a-Lago raid by Biden on Trump to get back his Crossfire Hurricane records. This is all Democrat lawfare. It's election interference. The House of Cards is crumbling and crumbling fast, and it's going to cause a severe backlash against the Democrats this November, because people who don't even like Trump are seeing this as unacceptable. These are Republican tactics by these Democrats. This is how the Roman Republic, though. It was Caesar waging those Roman insiders waging lawfare against Caesar, which caused him to cross the Rubicon from Gaul into Rome, which led to the Civil War and the fall of the Roman Republic. I'm not saying we're going into a civil war, but this is going to lead to a highly destructive tit for tat between the parties on this lawfare with retribution that's going to be highly destructive to our country. And the American people are just not going to accept that these Democrat prosecutors and Democrat judges and Democrat witnesses and Democrat operatives in these Democrat hellholes of New York, D.C., and Atlanta get to decide the next election instead of the American people.
Mike Davis is the president of the Article 3 Project. Find out more at article3project.org. Mike, my good friend, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Josh.
Northwest University in Kirkland is creating new STEM graduate degrees designed to take your technology